Well, Happy New Year and welcome to the Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield on the Rural Radio Network. Last trading week of 2022. Having said that, we'll kind of take a look at the end of year biggest cow kills that we've seen. We had a cattle and feed report that came out last Friday, but we're going to take the what is that? The DeLorean. There we go. That'll put Brad, some folks thinking. We're going to go back to the year 2015 and find out really what that has meant to our market trade. Lots of things to look at. And as you can see, Brad's laughing right along with me. Brad is with Brad Kooima, of course, with Kooima and Varlic out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So end of year, but I think we do have to start out with this DeLorean because 2015 is really when we saw the markets do some changing.
We've got a saying in here, actually. It's funny you bring that up. We didn't even prep for this. But where we're going, we don't need roads. You remember that part of that movie when they took off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been known to say that a time or two here when I start to get a little bit more gufty and more confident or more bullish the market. Thanks for having me on, and Happy New Year, and to everybody out there as well. Well, yes, to draw some of those parallels between what 2014 was the bull market of our career so far. And, there was a set of fundamentals that set that up. And it was supply side fundamentals. It was cow kill, back-to-back droughts in 11 and 12. 2011 was the all-time record cow slaughter for 1 year until this year, which we eclipsed that here a few weeks ago already. Last year's cow kill was second only to the 2011 cow kill. So two of the last three have been monster cow kills. I don't need to tell anybody that. Anybody that follows along at all should know that by now. So it takes a while. How long does it take? When do we get to that time where finally, one of the things that was different, Susan, was 2013. It almost like you flipped a switch and it rained everywhere. So all the cow country seemed to, go into expansion phase at the same time. I wish I could say that this year. There's still some areas of have and have not. Some places have had some moisture, and some places still are a long ways behind. So that's one big key here, of course, when we start to see that female slaughter, particularly that placements of heifers like we had this year was crazy. We've never killed this high a percentage of heifers ever. So hopefully we're about there, from a standpoint of a long view, which I guess at the end of the year we can take a look at that. And I guess, I don't know. I don't want to get people too cranked up. I don't know where the thing really takes off. If you remember 2014, we had a nice rally starting in the back half of 13. 14, we broke the mold a little bit. There's a strong seasonal to sell off the market a little bit the first 2 weeks of January. People always used to call it the after Christmas blahs, where maybe they've spent their budget and we're not going to go out to dinner now or whatever. You've had that push in the demand and then it slows down. 14 was an exception to that. We went straight up in 2014. Obviously the weather, we should talk about that weather, a key element to what we're doing now, I believe, and I think will be even a more key element as a factor as we move forward.
Well, you talked about that weather and really kind of underappreciated for what our cow-calf producers and our feedlot guys and gals have had to go through in these last couple of weeks and what they're going to go through with another storm system moving through.
Well, I think you're spot on, Susan. I have a great deal of empathy for those that have fought this thing in Nebraska and Iowa and South Dakota, North Dakota. Is it the dead heart of the fed cattle area? No, it certainly impacts a pretty good shot of it, though. And I'm a feeder myself. I know how this works. And I think the class of trader that underappreciates it. I was visiting with the old floor friend, a guy who used to be on the floor. He's my age, so old, right? About that, and how the market since 2015, when the pit closed, all information flowed in and out of the pit. That seemed to be where that was the newspaper, right, for news. And they would call out here and say, "How's your weather, Brad?" And I tell them, well, big cattle lost 50 to 100 pounds. That's how the weather is. And they probably won't get it back either because they've been hurt, because they've been, we're right there ready to slaughter. Now it seems like you've got a trade where you got somebody sitting behind a computer waiting for a red line to cross a blue line and doesn't even have an orientation at all or manure on his boots to understand, the factors that go around with a severe weather situation like we had. And that was a big deal. Those wind chills were historic, right? So, I think it's an underpinning and an underlying bullish factor, but I also know you can't be the only one right, Susan. I mean, you can sit here and say, well, wait till the weights, So I did notice the comprehensive weights in Nebraska down 9 pounds. I'm thinking that you're going to see over the next 2 or 3 weeks these average weights really go down, and then the rest of the world can figure it out what we may be already know.
We had a cattle on feed report that came out on Friday. Saw a decent drop, and I don't want to use the word decent as in a positive form, but a drop out of the state of Kansas that maybe some might be surprised at.
Well, as you know, I'm a numbers nerd when it comes to cattle stuff, and so I thought it might be interesting for those. And I think this is a cost of gain driven thing, but there were some real winners and losers, have and have nots in the number of cattle on feed. We finally got it to where we're 3% less than a year ago after having more on feed for as long as we can remember. 3% less finally, driven by Texas down 2% year on year, Kansas down 6%. That's a big number. Colorado down 9%. So, people ask me, Brad, how in the world can these guys afford to feed cattle? The corn's $1 higher there than here. And I'm going, I don't think they can. I don't think that does work. And so you're starting to see that. The other thing about the report that I think is worth noting is the marketing number. I think the marketing number is the most important number on any of the monthly reports. It gives you a measure of how current you are. The marketing number is a record for November. Since they started doing this report, this style in 1996, it's the biggest one ever. We're doing a nice job of staying current, and now this weather has slammed us again, and we were current coming into it. I'm in the camp that thinks we've created a pretty decent hole here in Jan-Feb.
All right. One final question for you as we look, and next year is 2023. Usually we see some quietness happening the beginning of January. Is that going to continue this year or next year, shall we say?
Well, my customers would say there's no way because Brad's going to be on vacation the first week of January, and something always goes crazy while I'm gone, which I hate.
True that.
Yeah, but I'm going to go anyway. I would expect that you'll have we got the Goldman roll starts the 5th business day of January. I guess I'll go with the odds and think we'll start January off with a little sluggish deal unless we get really hammered with another big weather event. A little bit of sluggish, maybe even a little bit of retracement into the first part of January. But I'm of the mood that I think this market's in pretty good shape. And unless we get something black swanish, I think, those breaks are going to be well supported.
All right. Lots of great things. Looking forward to what next year is going to bring, Brad. And I guess we will talk to you when you get back from vacation.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, that has been this week's Cattle Call. And of course, as we always remind you, commodity futures and options do involve a substantial risk of loss, not suitable to all investors. That's the Cattle Call. Happy New Year on the Rural Radio Network.